What's up to all the youth pastors, youth workers, volunteers, whatever? I'm back here with you to give you 10 tips to make you better at what you do. Tip number 1, use a sermon prep checklist. Oftentimes we are frustrated because we don't know what to do next when it comes to sermon prep. But when you use a checklist, you're able to be more organized and directed in what you need to do next. That way you can prepare ahead of time to give a message that God wants you to give to your students. Tip number 2, master a check-in system. You want to have a system in place in which you can be checking in your students, know who's in your student ministry, know who's missing out on your student ministry, because a lot of times you have new students come week in and week out, and to have names and numbers of all those people will help you in the follow-up process. Tip number 3, encourage your MIA students. This plays back to mastering a check-in system. You will not know your missing in action students without your students being checked in. And when I say missing in action, these are students who have been out of your ministry for a couple of weeks now. Maybe they're missing out, maybe they're skipping out or being lazy and not participating. You need to send an encouraging text to say, hey, we miss you, we love you, and we want you back. Tip number 4, read up on student culture. There's so much stuff that's happening in today's culture that you need to be read up on. Find a website that encourages you and teaches you what's happening in your culture. Here's a website that I like to use right here. Read up on it, follow the link, use it. Tip number 5, schedule creative blocks. You need to have time of creativity. Number 1, you're a creative person. Number 2, you always need to be thinking of the new and dreaming for your ministry. Tip number 6, invest in lobby games. What I mean by that, you need to be investing in games like 9 Square, Gaga Ball, Spike Ball, any type of game that people can be hanging out and playing pre-service and post-service will be beneficial to your ministry. Tip number 7, connect with campus coaches. The reason being, this partnership can be so vital in your student ministry because you are able to reach students that don't come to your ministry outside the walls of your church if you do this. You might even want to use a spreadsheet just like this one and get all the lists of contacts. That way you can be familiar with the faces that you need to be connected with and partnerships that you're familiar with as well. Tip number 8, flood your social media with students. This is the best way to promote any event you have coming up. Seeing students bought in will provide this atmosphere of FOMO, fear of missing out. Tip number 9, do not neglect parent emails. You always need to be communicating with your parents, and emails is a great platform to do so. Tip number 10, our final tip for today, don't neglect your spouse. I'm not teaching you this, I'm just reminding you this. Sometimes some of us can get caught up in student ministry so much that we forget our own world with our own family. So don't neglect the spouse. Thanks so much, guys, for watching the 10 tips for youth pastors, and I hope this makes you better at what you do every day.